In this video, I'm going to be looking at the alien in Alien, the xenomorph in the enduring Alien series, designed by Hans Rudolf Giger. Giger was a surrealist artist who began to come to prominence at the end of the 1960s. He studied architecture and industrial design in Zurich.
These are a few variations of the alien figure I had in mind. They all emerged out of my personal visual world, which I call biomechanical.
Fresh from his successful debut film, The Duelists, Ridley Scott began to plan his next film, Alien. Set mostly on board a spaceship where the crew are hunted down by an alien. Ridley Scott knew that, in a monster film, it's the monster that makes or breaks the project. That's why it's often a very good idea not to reveal the monster fully, or not until the end. Scott toyed with some ideas, looking for the right alien, and then the screenwriter, Steve O'Bannon, handed him Giger's book, Necronomicon, and Scott instantly knew the designs were right.
There are a lot of, say, artists in this area and of surrealism or whatever you like to call it. And I think Giger has an extra quality of, I think one of the most frightening things of all is a quality of reality combined with a sort of his own form of fantasy.
Scott sure is right about Giger's ability to present his visions, if you want to call them that, in reality. They have a real tangibility, and one that maybe doesn't come across quite as well in scans. I'm lucky enough to own a signed copy of Necronomicon, and I'll make a video about the book at some time in the future. Giger uses airbrushing to create a kind of literal atmosphere, like a fog. It's oppressive and claustrophobic, but also this and the incredible detailing make his paintings feel like they're overlaid photographs, or paintings of real places. In fact, Giger was once stopped by customs agents in Holland, who thought that his paintings were photographs. That'd be quite an investigation, wouldn't it?
Ridley Scott, with that book in his hands, he could convince the people of me. Yeah? First, they only wanted me for the design, but then I could realize that they have not been very, they needed some help, it seems to me.
Scott wanted Giger to first do matte paintings, but then found a dedicated matte painting artist. Giger became more involved, and it was his first time doing any work for a big production, having only worked on small documentaries before and an unproduced adaptation of Dune. He created conceptual drawings before moving on to modelling, where, sticking to his ideas of the biomechanical, he used both organic and inorganic components when sculpting the creature's body. Giger worked on many of the sets, and personally sculpted the now very famous pilot, or space jockey. Casting the alien body from plasticine, and giving designs to Carlo Rambaldi, who cast 5 separate alien heads. The alien head used most of a human skull, and used 900 moving parts. Rambaldi kept very close to Giger's designs for the monster's face and head, making a few changes for practicality. He used condoms for the facial musculature of the monster. Why doesn't the alien have eyes?
But we came to the conclusion that a creature without eyes, driven by instinct alone, would be far more frightening. That's why I painted a second version of the alien, which has no eyes. I modeled the alien costume on a plaster statue of the 7-foot-tall Nigerian bulagi. It's laborious, intricate work to fit on layer after layer of plasticine, to add in tubes, cables, vertebrae of snakes, and so on.
The original design of the alien's egg had a single slit across the top. The production worried it looked too much like a vagina, and they feared being censored in Catholic countries, so they changed it to the one we all know, the one with a cross.
we shouldn't call him a monster, he's better than that. So I think that's the first answer, that he's better than a monster. He's far more primal and far more frightening and far more realistic, in a sense, than the idea of the monster.
I think what makes the Xenomorph so unique and memorable is both its functionality. It doesn't just hunt people down, it uses them as hosts for its offspring. There are a lot of connotations about rape and unwanted pregnancy, and it's very disconcerting. If you compare it to Predator, which I think is also a very good monster, Predator outclasses its victims, but the Xenomorph in Alien doesn't just outclass them, it totally defiles them. But also what makes the Xenomorph memorable and outstanding, as well as its depraved way of existing, is that it's a piece of art that's part of a much larger universe. It's part of an artistic narrative or world that Giger was creating.
Having been a professional industrial designer, it means a lot to me to have a design show its symbolism as well as its functional aspect clearly.
Giger said that Lovecraft was an important inspiration for him, which I think you can see clearly in his designs, but it's also where he got the name Necronomicon from. Also, Dali, who Giger met, was no doubt an influence too. Giger was an artist, using painting, sculpture, and other mediums to project his art. He wasn't really a prop or creature designer, or an effects creator. Hollywood was something else. It's something he could try and use to grow, but he never really made any moves to enter it.
I think it was very important to do that because that's the only time you got a lot of money. That's very important, I think. And I could so realize my other projects with this money and get very creative, new creative stuff.
Giger says that working in the industry without knowing anyone was very difficult, but that it was excellent for expanding his own ideas. But he also adds that he was not impressed with the sequels to Alien.
People do what they want in the studios, you know. You make a good design and then they do it with what. And so I was always more and more, I got depressed about the work I did and it was no more good. Sometimes at the end it was so terrible that there was no more my own creations. They are all creations from the executive people and completely changed in their own mind, and I didn't want to give my name for that, and probably I got on the blacklist if it exists something like that because I criticized the films. I worked with other people and I said, who was doing this shit? And so I think they do not like me very much.
Giger also had problems with studios over ownership of his creations, struggling to take ownership of various conceptual drawings, and it seems disagreeing on the ownership of the Xenomorph design.
Normally it's clear that it's my work, but now if I have any time they can steal me or make new films with my stuff. That happened all the time. I'm happy that I'm not informed. I realized that in some films, I think, that looks very familiar somehow, and then I see that it's a cutout from a painting of me.
Alien, I don't think, made Giger any more of a remarkable artist. I think he was already very remarkable. But it did earn him a lot of recognition. I remember when I was a kid looking at the Xenomorph and thinking, whose brain did that come out of? Alien is the reason I know who Giger is. After Alien, he's credited as a conceptual artist for various things. He apparently was an uncredited conceptual artist for the Aphex Twin music video Window Licker. But mainly, after Alien, Giger continued with his surrealist art, moving more towards pastel and ink later in his life. He died in 2014. If you'd like to watch the sources of the clips I've used here, their links are in the description below. I'd particularly recommend Giger's own film from 1979. There's a lot of information there, but it's worth watching just for the tone as well. Thanks for joining me. It really helps if you like and subscribe, and I'd really love to know what you think about Giger's work. See you next time.
After the scene is shot and complete, everything gets torn down rather brutally and thrown away. You really have to be a seasoned professional to stand this sight without feeling some nostalgia. The next producer is already waiting at the door with his contract.